got, right, seems appropriate. I think it's a pretty good deal for both sides.
Yeah, I think absolutely. What I like is so young. I am a little bit worried about the injuries, but he's 20 plus goals every year, right? He's gonna. I think he can have a higher end than that. I think last year he almost got to 30 and he was missing, a dozen games or so for injury wise. But Nick Ehlers is gone, so now he could maybe get a bit more opportunity in different roles with different guys. But I like this one, and I still love that trade they did with LA for PL.
Oh yeah. And listen, Pierre-Luc Dubois redeemed himself last year, right? Like he played really well, to his credit, in Washington. Better, but he was horrendous in LA, horrendous in LA, and it worked out very well. And I mean, that was an example of certainly not as extreme. We keep talking about Marner's departure and how they're going to fill that role, but based on talent, Pierre-Luc Dubois was a big talent with high expectations that was supposed to play a big role for the Jets, and they moved off him, and they were better than ever. Now let's see what happens with Ehlers leaving. That's going to continue to get tested. But, sometimes trades happen because the player wants them. In that case, it was Pierre-Luc Dubois. In this case, it was because Marner wanted to leave. Clearly, he wanted to go to Vegas. You don't just pack up shop and say, well, we can't possibly compete anymore. You got to put the pieces together and find a way to make it work.
I don't know about you guys. Have you found this summer to be really weird in terms of some of the contracts and trades and stuff in the NHL?
In which way?
You're just even the Joshua trade, the Marchment trade, you're just seeing players get kind of just dealt for basically nothing.
Basically, yeah.
And even this contract, a couple years from now, if he continues to ascend, going to look like a steal. It's the same thing with Nyes. As the cap continues to go up, with the projections that we have, Nyes is going to be the equivalent of a $6 million player in a couple years. And if he's a 35 goal guy, same with Velarde, you know what I mean? I don't know. It feels like the NHL's in a weird place. I don't totally understand it, honestly.
Well, yeah, go ahead, Strud.
It's funny you bring that because I was talking to a buddy about that Dakota last night, that even the Marchment one, those guys are the kind of guys you want in the playoffs, right? You look for that big body that can skate and tap in some goals. I think we both, for sure Marchment's over 20. Now Dakota, I'm not sure if he'll get there, but those are the guys I want, and they're just floating around for almost nothing. A future draft pick at, right now. So why aren't more teams trying to grab them that maybe need that big body? And because we're going to be here, we're going to all be doing this again. And what is it? The trade deadline, whatever day it is, March 5th, they got to find a big body. They had one. They could have had this guy for pennies on the dollar as far as draft picks. So it's a really good point you make.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Guys like that come the trade deadline are the ones that teams are always trying to pursue, and they're willing to pay more. Yet in July, fourth round pick in 2028, you can have them. And especially, for teams that are still trying to fill out their roster, Marchman's still a young guy, relatively speaking, and Joshua is 29. You're telling me one of the bottom teams in the 7 or 8 worst teams in the league that feel like they want to grow and improve, they wouldn't pay a third rounder to pick that guy up? San Jose, they have so much room, and the Utahs and the Chicagos, and yet that obviously wasn't the case. It was the Leafs of all teams that said, we'll take him. We'll give up the 4th round pick for him.
His situation is different. I would feel better about the Leafs in their roster if they had gotten Marchment, just because he's better. Mm-hmm. His contract's I think he's entering the last year of his deal.
Marchment, yes.
Yeah, but the upside is higher offensively. I think he can play higher in the lineup. But it's interesting, what they've done, with Joshua and with Michelli. They're just, basically taking bets for free. They didn't give up really anything for both guys. And, if one bounces back, if both bounce back, suddenly you've just added a top 9 forward for nothing. And, the contracts will look better if those players bounce back. But it's interesting, that this is how they've decided to approach it. And I think, Joshua, I don't mind the bet just because he fits the style of the coach. I still wonder, as you might imagine, Hayes, where they're going to score from. But
yeah,
I don't like. It's funny with their offseason. Like I don't mind and actually like a lot of what I like a lot of what they've done, like individually. I just don't know what it adds up to. Is kind of my question.
Yeah, and I think that gets back to your original commentary on the offseason, that there just hasn't been a lot available. There isn't a lot going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, that's the truth. Like, Marner was a big fish. Nick Ehlers was a big fish. But beyond that, Besser went back to Vancouver, Tavares back to Toronto. All three Florida guys stayed in Florida. You know, Noah Dobson was available, credit the Habs. They went out and sniffed that out and picked him up. Now, they had to give up, you know, obviously assets to do that. But I do think, you know, it just appears as if because there's been so much money and there's been so much flexibility offered to almost every team, like post-COVID, they've just decided to invest in their own guys. You know, and it just there hasn't been a lot of opportunity. Like, that's the thing with, like, Marner leaving. You, as we've stated 15,000 times in the last 3 weeks, you were never going to replace him 1-for-1. You can't. You're not even going to replace him 3-for-1.
Yeah.
Like, no. Like, if you were to put together a trade of Michelli, Waugh, and Joshua for Marner, obviously you would get laughed at. Like, you would be fired. Your own owner would say, "Why did you even waste people's time? You're out." That's not a trade that even is possible to dream up. But he was leaving. He was going to go. He wanted to go to Vegas, so he went to Vegas. So all you can do is deal with what's available to you. And this is the market. Like, this was what's available, and they're still, I'm sure, kicking tires, and other teams I'm sure are still kicking tires. But I think what I'm taking out of this, and it changes, there's ebbs and flows in the league all the time, but I think there's going to be more of an emphasis on drafting and developing again. Like, that's something that I do think is going to hit the Leafs in the nose at some point. Like, you got to start finding your own guys. You got to trust your own people. You got to bring up your own people that you can control, that you have on ELCs, that you can get to, you know, when they're RFAs, so you can give them a 6-year deal like Nyes and like Velarde. And that applies to every team in the league. Like, the best way to build up your program, it's the most difficult, and you have to get lucky and you have to be patient. But draft, develop, let them grow up together. Gives your GM a lot of options if you want to do that.
Yeah, that's a really long range and mature view, and I'm with you for sure. But right now, where the Leafs are, like, they're trying to get to a winning point right now. So I think there has to be two streams. I think you have to have the stream you're talking about, which is drafting, developing, and being patient, but then try to mine some, you know, diamonds in the rough that you might find, and what you just highlighted, the two guys that the Leafs traded for. You can go over to Europe, look around there, maybe college, free agents, whatever, and try to figure that out, and then the trades. So I think you have to have multiple ways of approaching it. And I always, when I talk to guys and, you know, that are young players, and, you know, what's the team doing for you? Well, they don't have a lot of people working with me for development. And I'm like, are you crazy? Like, there's no cap on that. I'd be spending money like crazy, like a drunken sailor, like the PA guy that went down and
Yes.
what's his name?
Lloyd Howell Jr.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, Lloyd. I'd be spending money like that guy, but I'd be spending it on development of my team and drafting